Hey, and what's up, guys? Today I want to talk a little bit of demo bands because, well, this filled with promising bands and not so many, not so promising bands as well. The thing is that while I have been reviewing albums and demos for more than 15 years, I've encountered lots of weird things or stupid mistakes and all that stuff during my years doing that. So I kind of wanted to put up a video where I want to share some tips and ideas and hints to demo bands or bands that are just starting up their band, what to do, what to avoid, and so forth. So let's start with the basic idea. Of course, this won't be the end all, be all end all kind of video about it, but you get at least some major points which I want you to know. So you have a band going on with a lineup and you're rehearsing tracks and all that stuff, but you haven't put up a release just yet and you're wondering what to do. Well, first of all, before you do actually release anything, and you probably have some name ideas for your band, just number one rule is make sure that any band with your name, chosen name with you, what you have in mind, is not already taken. The easiest way to do it, if you're having a metal band, which this video is all about basically, but applies to any other band as well, is to check out, do a little bit Googling, or even easier than that, just go to Metal Archives and check out if there are bands with that name. For example, I recently encountered a band called Sickness, a new band from Finland and all that stuff. Well, wow, there's about 20 metal bands alone with the name Sickness. So you don't want to end up doing that. Make sure that your band has something unique, something that is basically easy to Google up, especially if you're aiming for labels to release your stuff. The more generic your name is, the harder it becomes for the people who might just want to search your info on the net. So choose your name carefully so you don't have to change it later on. This is probably the number one thing before releasing actually anything. Now that if you have already a name, and which is a good one, and you have already even recorded your material, but you're not sure what to do next, well, there are a few ways how to proceed. But before you actually get anything sent to any website or magazine or whatever place you want to get your stuff reviewed, not to mention labels which might be interested in releasing your material, you might actually play your songs to people who actually understand that genre, at least a bit. The people you should avoid usually is your close relatives. That means your mom, your dad, your grandparents, maybe your girlfriend or boyfriend, unless of course they are playing in the same band or something like that. Even siblings like big brothers, sisters, whatever, they are usually too close to be the right way to have this critical idea of your music. If they're like your big brother, big sister, they might be just, teasing you about it, just, putting you down because they are not interested in your music. Or if you're really good terms with them, they might be just, giving you these uplifting ideas. Oh, you're the best vocalist in the world. Oh, you're a guitar workist, all that stuff. And that is just kind of a wrong idea how to do it. If you have ever watched, talent shows such as Idols and whatnot, you have probably noticed that there are these singers, of whose, grandparents and whatnot praise them to, whatever. And when they actually go to this competition and they have to sing or perform, and they just, get this critical opinion, and they might be just totally horrible crap. So don't get that illusion that just because your best friend or your girlfriend or your mom tells you that you can do it, it doesn't mean you can. You might very well have this idea in your head that you can, and there's nothing wrong with that, having yourself a belief that you can actually pull it off, and you have this talent and skill and all that stuff, you have the right connections and ideas, that might be a good idea. It's better to try than give up without trying. But some people who are so close to you may not have the right way to express or have this right knowledge or experience that they can actually give you this kind of a feedback that is worth anything. So you might just want to consider having play your music or whatever you're doing to people who actually listen to the same kind of genre or even make their music themselves. Even better if you have friends who are already in a band and you share similar ideas or taste in music. They are probably the right ones, unless of course they are keen competitors, in which case this idea might be bad, but this most of the time doesn't apply. If you have social media contacts, you can very well play your music to your Facebook friends or whatever and get some feedback, which is probably good. Especially good if you have friends who produce music, who do mixing or mastering, who run a label or distro or whatever. They might have very crucial information regarding of your music and talent and whatnot. So that is always a good idea. If your friends have labels and they might be interested in releasing your stuff, that is also good. But word to the wise is that don't be too, hurry with this stuff. Take your time, reflect on other bands and releases, and talk this over. Especially if you have bandmates, don't do hasty solutions or decisions, because it's just sometimes you might actually regret that. Now let's take more steps in the list I have actually put out here, so I don't forget this. Back to the Metal Archives. That is also a very good place to actually update your information about your band. So unless you have a friend who is already updating Metal Archives, you probably want to do it yourself. Apply there, and you can start submitting once you have something out. Once you don't, you probably get just rejected, because if you're just a digital only demo release, they will probably just reject because you are not a real band at this point. But when you have actually put something, Metal Archives is a really good tool to keep updated, because many reviewers or journalists who are writing about metal music probably end up searching your information there. For example, I have been updating that a few years now, and I've been using it a very, very many years, and that's just something great. There is no better place to check out the basic information of metal bands. Even with that, of course, there are band's own links, Facebook page, SoundCloud, Bandcamp, YouTube, Instagram, or whatever you have there, homepage. Also keep those updated with your information. If you don't have extra spare time, and I mean this extra spare time, you probably want to focus on one or two sites, so you can actually keep them updated with your music and your news and whatever you have there included. Spreading stuff on so many sites takes so much more work. It is good if you want to just make sure that you get up with search engines and whatnot, but unless you can actually focus really much time keeping all those places updated, you probably want to end up just with one or two. Facebook is a really good tool to start with, because creating a page doesn't actually take time and skill that much, and so many people actually use it. But when you want to have some song samples on the net, YouTube is probably the best. Bandcamp is really cool too, because you can actually sell stuff there, and SoundCloud and other services are worth checking out. So do your homework, so to speak, and check this one out so your information is up to date and the samples are for people to hear. When you're actually demoing songs, you might want to try out different ideas instead of just settling with the first idea of your very new genius composition. You might want to try different ways of creating the same riff. So do variations Try out different versions, try longing them, like putting extra times of, how many times you want to try out a single riff. You might want to try different sounds, of course. You might try different ways to apply vocals, just some spices, be it keyboards or some weird Chinese instrument you got them for a souvenir from your dad. Um, all kinds of stuff. You may very easy to just try out different ideas and give them a fresh listen. You can actually compare different versions. Okay, so here I have a guitar solo, here I don't. Here I have these female vocals, here I have violin. Maybe if I just go by these two. Nowadays, trying out all these different ideas is so cheap. It doesn't basically cost you anything, and you can use cloud services. Even if your band members are in different cities or different countries, you can basically send those files over and over again, and you can just repeat. You don't have to stick with these back to 1980s 4-track recorders where you have to just buy multiple tapes and whatnot. Nowadays, because everything happens basically with computers and all that stuff, this is all free. Of course, you need a lot of time and effort to try different ideas, but at least it doesn't cost you any money. So it's easy and worthwhile considering different ideas. If you feel something is flawed or kind of weird in your song, or beat vocals or just guitar sounds or bass being too loud, just try out different versions before you actually end up locking the idea and sending it to labels or whatever. It is something that you won't usually regret. But once you do just your first track, okay, this is all done now, guitars, bass, drums, vocals, they're minor flaws, I don't give a shit, and then you send it. And that might be, oh man, now I'm actually feeling that there's something I want to change. And it's too late once you get send it out. Of course, you can later on fix it. If you, for example, catch a record deal with your demo and then you end up recording those songs again. But of course, it's easier to land that actual deal once you know that you are very satisfied with the end result in the first place. So do versions, try out them, and listen them, give them a go, and don't be afraid to trash those mediocre or right away crappy ideas, because usually they are not worth recording. So now that you have your demo done and you want to send it to a label, but you're doing it already by dozens and you don't get a reply, don't get depressed. It's typical. Labels don't often, just right away sign you up. First of all, many of them are busy, many of them are out of money, and sometimes you just don't appeal for various reasons. Maybe your music is just, not ready yet. Or maybe there's something missing. Maybe you need to hone your skills or re-record the demo to catch it. Sometimes they reply, sometimes they don't. And it's probably likely that they don't. So don't give up. Just keep honing your skills and your recordings, and eventually you might actually land a recording deal. Being polite to people, being friendly, and not being cocky might be your keys in order to create a network of people who actually do that stuff. So keep this in mind. Don't just assume that because you can play guitar, and create a song, that you actually land a deal and right away just because you sent some samples to a record label. It doesn't happen usually like that. Of course, if you're a magical guy or girl, who knows what might happen. Now, when you're actually sending your demo, you probably want to send some kind of a letter to go with it. Some basic idea what your band is all about. Now, don't make this a novel. Nobody wants to read some 20 pages of your life story because they are not simply interested. For example, when I do reviews, I hardly can, spare time or interest to read these really long letters like, oh, Sam joined the band in 2008, then he quit 2009, then his brother came in 2 years later and blah, blah, blah. Nobody's interested in that. What matters is like, What is your genre? What is the name of your band? What is the name of your release? What is the lineup? Do you have previous recordings? So sort of a lineup, discography, and really short biography. And of course your contact information. You might want to have at least some kind of cover included, especially if you're just sending some files or a CDR with just your magic marker on top saying like, this is my Black Devious cult void band. Okay, nice. But what about it? Is there a band photo? Is there a cover photo? Is there something else that you can explain something about this band? But going too deep is just usually a waste of time. And like I said, nobody wants to hear your life story. Basic information is usually more than needed. And if the label or review guy or whoever you're sending that is interested in your band, he or she will most likely write back and hey, I want to know about your Doomsday Death Cult band because you sound pretty cool and all that stuff. So keep in mind that it's supposed to be informative, not a huge tome of useless information. Now, like I said, having the right kind of attitude can mean a lot. That means be humble, be friendly, be polite, don't get offended if people call your band crappy, because it most likely will be crappy at when it started. Or if not crappy, it might be just mediocre, but people can be really mean, especially on the net, when you can anonymously comment on anything and just like, I don't like your music because I don't like your face, blah, 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 blah. When people do that, just try to swallow your pride and keep your ego in the corner. Don't make a war about it, because if you act like an ass, your band will look like an ass eventually. You might have to, delete your previous comments on different forum or social media or whatnot. So keep your head smart. Try to act civil and try to act like you're somebody who is seriously be taken. If you just, act like a douchebag, people will treat you like a douchebag, and nobody likes douchebags in the first place. So that is not the way to go. You can later on adjust your rock and roll attitude when you have sold 1 million albums and you can just snort coke out of somebody's bottoms. Anyways, now that you're a demo band, there's nothing to lose by being a decent guy, decent girl, whoever you are. Now, when I mentioned this being humble and that sometimes labels don't actually reply, it also means you need to have some kind of a patience. You need to have patience, and you need to have a kind of a iron will. By iron will, I don't mean that you have to, move cars with your sheer force of will, but you have to understand that if your band gets rejected, if people don't like your demo or band in the first place, or if you have to wait years in order to go someplace, you need to have this iron will to actually accomplish anything, to book gigs, to actually do those demos and do those recordings and tolerate that all kind of crappy talk you might get because of your music and your band. So if you don't have it, if you're too sensitive, if you're too fragile of a person, then music or music industry in particular might not be your thing. So you have to have certain kind of a muscle in your brain to take those hits and punches. You have to have that kind of a tolerance to live through that. Things might take time. You might have to deal with all kind of bull crap, but that is probably the price you have to pay if you want to be in a band that actually gets someplace. If you don't have, you do something else. Don't have a band. People won't like it, and people will give you a hard time about it. And now that you have actually this band, you have been sending your demos, you have been promoting your band on your own social media page and whatnot. You might actually want to consider promoting your band on different internet forums. And by forums, I don't mean just, the old school internet, chat boards or whatnot, but also various social media channels. If it's YouTube or Facebook groups or whatever, you might just consider that, hey, there's this channel or there's this, page or group that they might be interested in my music. Go there and post it, give some information, make the people interested in your band and your music. But like I said before, be humble about it, be a decent guy about it, be tolerant, and don't get cocky. Like I said, you will get bad feedback most likely, and just get offended because somebody tells you that your band has a stupid name or ugly cover, or he doesn't like your face or voice or just whatever. Just live with it. Don't get provoked even when you are provoked. You are better than that. And if you're not, that will cause you some troubles later on. Now, there's probably a list or handful of things I probably forgot while doing this video and giving you these tips and hints and ideas what to do when you are a demo band or how to proceed with your demo band. Should I have forgotten something, or if I'm just talking out of my hole, please let me know in the comments. You can disagree, challenge me, or just do whatever comments on the box below. I'm more than happy to hear your views. How have you reached people with your music? What kind of difficulties you had? What kind of challenges you had? Or did you have any in the first place? I've been there myself. I've gotten pretty easily, but I know that it's not always like that. Maybe our band just got the right time and right label, met the right people. But like I said, it's not always like that. And if I was a big rock star, I wouldn't be doing these videos anyway. So you can pretty much figure it out from that. Anyways, looking for your comments. This is me about demo bands. If I need to talk about more about this in the second part, there will be. If you need it, let's do it. But as always, leave your comments here. Let me know what you think, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do it right now. We need more subscribers anyway. But thank you for watching, and looking for your comments. See ya later, and as always, stay metal.